So, I've noticed this weird trend in anime recently. No, I'm not talking about an increasing amount of shows being set in work life rather than high school. And that's not what I meant by recently either. I meant as in myself having recently begun to realize a pattern in certain anime. A pattern that frankly scares me, due to how prevalent it is in these anime. A pattern that, if left unchecked, might send Japan back down the course it went down when it completely isolated itself from the outside world. A pattern that might bring forth a new century of humiliation, though not for the Chinese, but for the Japanese themselves and the rest of the countries that anime permeates in. Now, what exactly is this horrifying pattern, you may ask? Well, it's something deeply related to Japan's history as a Buddhist country? That of reincarnation. For a lot of popular modern anime revolve around a cyclical theme, or reincarnation in some way. You might ask yourself, but Blop, these seem like perfectly reasonable subjects for both anime and any medium for that matter to depict. And you're partly right. I have no issues with anime tackling these kinds of matters, but where most of them go wrong is in the presentation of them. They are always used as a force for good in the protagonist's hands, which is just wrong. Let's first look at some anime that showcase what I've just described. Re:Zero, for example, tells the story of a guy being transported to another world, a fantasy world, where everything keeps going horribly until he figures out how to make it right. Each time he doesn't, he either dies or kills himself to reset the world to the last checkpoint. In so doing, he sees a lot of messed up stuff, gets quite scarred emotionally and psychologically, but in the end finds a better future for those around him. Quite similar in fact to what Okabe does in Steins, though in his case, it's his own screw-up and some more which causes what he feels like he has to fix. Emotional and psychological trauma, better future, yada yada. The Girl Who Leapt Through Time and Real Life also come to mind, though in the latter, the main character only gets to relive his past age for 1 year, and doesn't actually travel back in time or relives his actual past. But still, close enough. Higurashi also does the same as Re:Zero and Steins, though in its case, there is no clear cause of why something new is going wrong each time. Well, aside from the mystic powers of the olden Hinamizawa syndrome, that one cannot even begin to understand, which is why there doesn't need to be any clear reason for each character going insane. Darn scientists. They're the ones ruining the children's lives at the end of the day, it seems. Anyhow, this is somehow more cyclical in nature, since practically the whole anime restarts every couple of episodes, often without anything having been learned about how to fix everything going wrong in these loops. Heck, we don't even know if anyone has the power to do so before the second season, where we learn that one of the kids remembers every loop and is driven to stop everything from going awry. So the fact that the series itself just restarts every so often, and that it most of the time doesn't even have a clear goal or end to work towards, makes it inherently more cyclical in nature than the other anime mentioned so far. Which, in particular, brings me back to my original claim that whilst all of this on the surface might just seem like basic stories about characters doing what they can to get a good ending, so to say, hiding just beneath the bonnet is a disastrous thought process, with ties to both Japanese history and that of all of East Asia in general. You see, the general understanding of history and time as a concept in East Asia is quite different to that of the Christian, Western world. Due to East Asia's history, philosophies, and religions, they see both history and time as cyclical in nature. After all, every day has a start and an end, and repeats itself, as does every year with its seasons, and as does historical events, right? China being united through a strong leader, becoming decadent, then breaking apart into warlords for the whole process to repeat itself, or better for our purposes, the Japanese shogun overthrowing the emperor, only for the emperor to throw him over back. Rinse and repeat. With this, in addition to the belief in reincarnation and philosophical ideas, it's not exactly hard to see where they got it cemented from that history and time really does repeat itself in a cyclical nature. Following this mindset, it then also makes sense to believe that since everything will always repeat itself and forever follow the same pattern of history, that you close down your country from all of the rest of the world and accept things entirely as they are and always have been, and focus entirely on what's going on in your own nation. You can already tell where I'm going with this, can't you? With this line of thinking, and subsequent isolation, Japan fell behind the rest of the world in almost everything. Now, that's all well and good enough if your country is the only country in the world, but in most cases, it seldom is. This left it open for any potential invasion by superior foes, something that luckily for them never got serious. But the threat was still very much there. So much so that when the US paid them a little visit with a small detachment of ships, they had no other choice than to give in to their demands entirely and reopen the country. This sudden intake of the outside world they had been missing, along with its over 200 years worth of inventions and ideas, and the rapid industrialization that followed, led to a very discontent generation of men, who would go on to fester that discontentation within their children, leading to the brutal militaristic and expansionistic totalitarianism of Japan during the Second World War. An end result which left scars across all of Asia and left millions of people dead in its wake. With this eventual result of a nation so stuck in this line of thinking, you really need to ask yourself, is this kind of show becoming so popular really a good thing? Compare this to the West. Both its religion and subsequent philosophy through the ages have always strived for progress. Christendom presents a linear sort of time, where there is a clear beginning and end, and not more than that. Compare that to the cyclical nature of the Eastern perspective. This, paired with the belief that God created all the world, naturally spurs on more of a sense of excitement about said world, and wanting to progress both in it and discover everything about it. Since time and history also don't repeat, it's only natural for there to be some kind of progress to it all, through this perspective. With this, each nation and its peoples manage to compete and stay up to date with each other in a gradual evolution of technology and ideas, unlike that of the land of the rising sun. So unless you want your nation, your family, and your community to be steamrolled by a foreign power, occupied, or easily give up to another people's demands, then letting these kinds of anime fester and gain popularity is bound only to lead to disaster. It might even lead to horrible war crimes and mass extinction. So to all of you watching, beware.